When Marcus Williams walked into the designer boutique wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt, the racist store manager took one look and decided he didn't belong. She called security, humiliated him in front of other customers, and demanded he leave immediately. What she didn't know, Marcus owned the entire shopping mall. One phone call ended her career. Marcus Williams had built Riverside Crossing Mall from the ground up. 15 years ago, it was an abandoned warehouse district on the edge of Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, it was a thriving luxury shopping destination with over 80 stores, generating millions in revenue annually. But success hadn't changed Marcus. At 52, he still wore the same comfortable clothes, worn jeans, plain shirts, sneakers that had seen better days. On this particular Saturday morning, Marcus wasn't visiting as the owner. He was visiting as a mystery shopper. He did this twice a year, walking through his properties unannounced to see how staff treated customers when they thought no one important was watching. It was the only way to know if the customer service standards he demanded were actually being met. He parked his old Ford truck in the far corner of the lot, not in the reserved owner's spot near the entrance, and walked through the main doors at 10:15 a.m. The mall was busy. Families with strollers, teenagers clustered near the food court, couples window shopping. Marcus moved through the corridor slowly, observing. Most stores seemed fine. Staff greeted customers. Displays were neat, nothing concerning. Then he reached Ellsworth Grey, a high-end boutique that sold designer handbags, watches, and accessories. The kind of place where a single purse could cost $3,000. He stepped inside. Soft lighting, polished marble floors, glass display cases gleaming. A faint scent of expensive perfume hung in the air. Two white women were browsing near the handbag section, each holding champagne flutes. A young sales associate hovered nearby, smiling and answering questions. Marcus wandered toward the watch display, hands in his pockets. He wasn't planning to buy anything. He was just observing. But within seconds, he felt it. The shift. A woman emerged from the back office. Mid-40s, blonde hair styled in a sharp bob, wearing a tailored black blazer with the store's logo embroidered on the lapel. Her name tag read Victoria Ashford, store manager. She saw Marcus immediately. Her eyes scanned him from head to toe. Worn jeans, faded t-shirt, scuffed sneakers. Her expression changed. Not subtle, not polite, just cold. She walked over quickly, her heels clicking against the marble. "Excuse me," she said, her tone clipped. "Can I help you with something?" Marcus looked up from the watch display. "Just browsing." "Thank you." Victoria's smile was thin, forced. "This is a luxury boutique. Our items start at several $1,000s. Are you looking for something specific, or—" The implication was clear. "Can you even afford to be here?" Marcus kept his voice calm. "I'm just looking around." Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly. "We have a strict no-loitering policy. If you're not planning to make a purchase, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Marcus paused. He glanced around the store. The two white women with champagne glasses were still browsing, laughing softly. They'd been there longer than he had. No one had asked them if they were planning to buy anything. "I've been here less than 2 minutes," Marcus said quietly. "I haven't touched anything. I'm just looking." "Sir, I'm the manager here, and I decide who stays and who goes. You don't look like our typical clientele, and I don't want other customers feeling uncomfortable." The words hung in the air, heavy, unmistakable. One of the white women glanced over, her champagne glass paused mid-sip. The young sales associate looked down at her feet, clearly uncomfortable. Marcus took a slow breath. He'd dealt with this before, more times than he could count, but it never stopped stinging. "I'm not making anyone uncomfortable," he said evenly. "I'm standing here quietly." Victoria's voice sharpened. "I'm asking you politely to leave. If you refuse, I'll call security." Marcus didn't move. He just looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You're really going to call security on me for browsing?" "Yes." Victoria pulled a walkie-talkie from her belt. "Security, this is Victoria at Ellsworth Grey. I need someone at my location immediately. I have a situation. A crackle of static. Copy that. On my way. The store went silent. The two white women exchanged uncomfortable glances. One of them whispered something to the other. The sales associate looked like she wanted to disappear. Marcus stayed exactly where he was, hands still in his pockets, calm as ever. But inside, a fire was building. Not rage, not panic, just resolve. Within a minute, a security guard appeared, a young black man in his mid-20s, radio in hand. He looked at Marcus, then at Victoria, confusion flickering across his face. "What's the issue, ma'am?" the guard asked. Victoria gestured toward Marcus. "This man is loitering and refusing to leave. I need him escorted out." The guard hesitated. He looked at Marcus again, taking in his calm demeanor, his posture. Something didn't sit right. "Sir," the guard said carefully, "is there a problem here?" Marcus shook his head. "No problem. I was just looking at watches. Manager decided I don't belong." The guard glanced back at Victoria, clearly uncomfortable. "Ma'am, he's not causing a disturbance." "I don't care," Victoria snapped. "I run this store. If I say he needs to leave, he leaves. Do your job." The guard's jaw tightened. He looked at Marcus again, and this time Marcus saw recognition in his eyes, not of Marcus himself, but of the situation. The kind of situation young black men in uniforms were forced into all the time. "Sir," the guard said quietly, "I'm going to have to ask you to step outside." Marcus nodded slowly. "Understood." He turned and walked toward the exit, the guard trailing a few steps behind. As they reached the door, Marcus stopped and looked back at Victoria. "Just so I'm clear," Marcus said, his voice steady, "you're removing me from this store because—" Victoria folded her arms. "Because I have the right to refuse service to anyone, and I'm refusing you." Marcus nodded once. "Got it." He stepped outside into the mall corridor. The guard stood beside him, looking deeply uncomfortable. "Man, I'm sorry," the guard said quietly. "I didn't want to—" "It's fine," Marcus said. "You were doing your job." The guard hesitated. "You know that was messed up, right?" She didn't ask those white ladies to leave. "I know." The guard shifted his weight. "You gonna file a complaint or something?" Marcus pulled out his phone. "Something like that." He scrolled through his contacts and tapped a name. Gerald Hoskins, Mall Operations Director. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Marcus? Everything okay?" "Gerald, I need you at Ellsworth Grey, right now. A pause. What's going on?" "Just handled a situation. I want you to see something." "On my way." Marcus ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. The guard was staring at him now, eyes wide. "Wait, did you just call the operations director?" Marcus met his gaze. "Yeah." Who are you?" Before Marcus could answer, Gerald came striding down the corridor, a tall white man in his 50s wearing a crisp shirt and tie, clipboard in hand. When he saw Marcus, his expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Marcus, what happened?" Marcus gestured toward the boutique. "Store manager just had me removed for loitering. I was in there less than 3 minutes, didn't touch anything, just stood near the watch display." Gerald's face darkened. "She kicked you out?" "Called security. Had this young man escort me out." Gerald turned to the guard. "What did you see?" The guard swallowed hard. "He wasn't doing anything wrong, sir." "Just standing there," the manager insisted. Gerald looked back at Marcus. "I'm handling this, now." He walked into the boutique, Marcus and the guard following behind. Victoria was back behind the counter, typing on a tablet, completely unbothered. When she saw Gerald, her expression shifted to polite professionalism. "Mr. Hoskins!" "Good morning. What brings you—" "You just had a customer removed from your store," Gerald interrupted. Victoria blinked. "Yes? He was loitering. I have the right—" "That customer," Gerald said, his voice cold, "is Marcus Williams. He owns this mall. He owns this building. He owns the company that leases you this retail space." The color drained from Victoria's face. Marcus stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "And you just kicked me out of my own property." The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The two white customers stood frozen, champagne glasses forgotten. The young sales associate looked like she might faint. Gerald turned to Marcus. "What do you want to do?" Marcus looked at Victoria for a long moment. "I want to know why she assumed I couldn't afford to shop here." Victoria stammered, I didn't assume." "Yes, you did," Marcus said quietly. "You looked at me, saw my clothes, saw my skin, and decided I didn't belong. You didn't ask those women to leave. You didn't question them. Just me." Victoria's hands trembled. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "That's the problem," Marcus interrupted. "You didn't know who I was." "But even if I wasn't the owner, what you did was wrong. You judged me based on how I look, and that's not how we do business here." He turned to Gerald. "I want her employment contract reviewed, immediately." Gerald nodded. "Consider it done." Marcus looked back at Victoria one last time. "You're suspended, pending a full investigation into how you treat customers. If we find a pattern, you're done." Victoria's eyes filled with tears, but Marcus didn't wait for her response. He walked out of the store, the guard and Gerald following. Outside, Marcus exhaled slowly. The guard looked at him with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "You really own this whole mall?" Marcus nodded. "Built it 15 years ago. And you just walk around like a regular person?" "I am a regular person," Marcus said. "That's the point. People like Victoria forget that. They think wealth looks a certain way, acts a certain way, dresses a certain way, and when someone doesn't fit their picture, they get dismissed." The guard was quiet for a moment. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not letting her get away with it." "I've seen stuff like that happen before. Usually, nothing comes of it." Marcus met his eyes. "Not on my property. Not anymore." Over the next week, Gerald conducted a full review of Ellsworth and Grey's customer service records. What he found was damning. Multiple complaints from Black and Hispanic customers about being followed, questioned, or asked to leave. All of them had been dismissed or ignored. Victoria had been the manager for 3 years, and during that time the pattern was clear. Marcus called an emergency meeting with all store managers in the mall. When he walked into the conference room, the energy shifted. People who'd never seen him before suddenly realized who he was. He didn't waste time. "We have a problem, and we're fixing it today." He pulled up data on the screen. Complaints, patterns, statistics that couldn't be explained away. "This mall was built to serve everyone," Marcus said. "I don't care what someone's wearing. I don't care what car they drove here in. If they walk through those doors, they're a customer. And they deserve respect." He introduced new policies: mandatory anti-bias training for all retail staff, a third-party review system for discrimination complaints, and immediate termination for anyone found guilty of racial profiling. Some managers nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable, but no one argued. "And one more thing," Marcus added. "I'll be doing these walks regularly. Unannounced. So if you're treating customers differently based on how they look, I will find out, and you will be held accountable." Victoria Ashford was terminated 2 weeks later. Her contract was not renewed, and she quietly left Charlotte shortly after. The boutique hired a new manager, a young Black woman with a background in inclusive retail, and customer complaints dropped to 0 within 3 months. The story spread quickly. Local news picked it up. Social media shared it. Business publications wrote about it. But Marcus didn't want the attention. He just wanted the mall to be a place where everyone felt welcome. One afternoon, months later, Marcus was walking through the mall again. Same jeans, same worn sneakers. He stopped by a jewelry store where an older Black woman was looking at necklaces. The sales associate greeted her warmly, asked questions, brought out options. No judgment, no suspicion, just service. Marcus smiled to himself and kept walking. This was what he'd built the mall for. Not for profit, not for prestige, but for moments like this, where people could walk in, be treated with dignity, and leave without having to prove they belonged. Because dignity shouldn't require a resume, and respect shouldn't depend on who's watching. If this story resonated with you, remember, bias in retail isn't just rude. It's a reflection of who we think deserves to be served. But change is possible when people in power refuse to look the other way. Share this story. Subscribe for more moments that challenge us to see people, not assumptions. And if you've ever been judged for how you look, know that you deserve better, and so does everyone else.